Let's get our political panel in here. With me again this hour, CNN political commentator and Hillary Clinton supporter Bakari Sellers, and CNN political commentator and Trump supporter Scottie Nell Hughes. Thank you guys for being with me. Scottie, let me start with you, and I just want to look at the poll numbers as it relates to this visit. So the most recent polling out of Suffolk University USA Today shows that Trump's at 2% among African Americans, Clinton's at 87%, but Trump is behind even the third-party candidates, Jill Stein and Gary Johnson. This outreach, Scottie, is 60 days or so before the election. Would you have liked to see it sooner? Is this too late?
Well, once again, this is not something that just started today. This was a great hands-on getting to know the issues that are facing the people of Detroit, people that I think we can all agree have been ignored, and that's why we're having issues like we see in Flint, Michigan today. But this is something that started with Mr. Trump last August. He's had an urban coalition. He has tried to do for those underserved communities. He is trying to learn more and more about how he can actually get in there and not just continue this diatribe that a lot of politicians do and saying they want to help the community, and yet we still have the issues that are facing the residents of Detroit today.
Do you think he's done enough, Scottie, in terms of spending time in parts of African American communities that are in the most dire straits, that need the most help?
Well, listen, Mr. Trump has done more rallies, almost probably 2 to 3 times what Hillary Clinton has done in cities across the United States, and the doors were always open to everybody, to every gender, every sexual preference, every race. Everyone was always welcome at those Trump events, and so he's gone to those communities.
But I was asking specifically about going into those communities, meeting with the community leaders, seeing really where the need is.
Well, he did go into Chicago earlier this spring, and he's talked to many of those leaders throughout this entire election year. But this was obviously one that was hands-on. The cameras were there, and you have to look at it and say that it was actually a very beautiful day. It was a beautiful. I watched the entire service that happened. Mr. Trump was given a gorgeous Jewish prayer shawl and a Jewish Bible for him and his wife. Whether you agree with Mr. Trump or not, the message today was one of unity, and I think that's something that needs to be respected by both parties.
He did call it an amazing day for me. He talked about African American churches being the conscience of our country, saying, "I'm here to learn." Here's more of what he said. Let's listen, Bakari.
Nothing would make me happier and more fulfilled than to use what I have learned in business and in traveling all over the world. I've sort of seen a lot, to bring the wealth and prosperity and opportunity to those who have not had these opportunities before, and that's many, many people in Detroit. When I see wages falling, people out of work, I know the hardships this inflicts, and I am determined to do something about it. I will do something about it. I do get things done.
So, Bakari, he's making his pitch here as a businessman, saying, I get things done, I know the pain. Clearly saying, I can bring the jobs that you need so much. Is that effective?
Well, Poppy, I have to say that unless we're in the business of giving out participation trophies in politics, just showing up is not going to get it done. Donald Trump today, he failed on 2 fronts. The first is that he failed with the message, and that we understand many of the issues that go on in these communities around the country, but you're looking for someone with some solutions to fix these problems. And the second thing is the messenger. And I know that many surrogates and many supporters of Donald Trump like to take the man away from his baggage, but you cannot sit here and not remember that Donald Trump is the one who supported the birther movement and just yesterday in Philadelphia refused to even apologize for it. You can't forget the discrimination that he himself actually portrayed on African Americans in his housing practices in New York, and you can't forget the Central Park Five. So I think he failed on 2 fronts. And Maya Angelou, she alluded to it best. When someone shows you who they are, you need to believe it the first time.
So let me get Scottie's response to two specific things you just brought up. Scottie, he just brought up, first of all, a settlement that eventually Donald Trump and his organization reached with the Justice Department decades ago about discriminatory housing practices. They did settle on that, and he was prosecuted for that. And secondly, the Central Park Five. He took out a full-page ad in a New York newspaper calling for the death penalty for the Central Park Five African Americans who were exonerated in 2014 in a case involving a jogger in Central Park. Does Bakari have 2 points there, that history, that baggage stays with him despite the visit he made today?
Well, whether or not you agree that, we're looking at something probably 30, 35 years ago, a housing practice that targeted several different contractors across the United States. If you want to say that, yes, there was an issue then, obviously Mr. Trump addressed it, as there was no other issues within this housing since then that have been filed. That was actually dismissed or it was settled. So if there was a problem, Mr. Trump found out about it and solved it. I mean, he started more than 500 different corporations. He's responsible for more than 32,000 employees. I think, he can't be responsible for every single one, but when a problem is brought to his attention, he solves it.
So let's talk about something more recent then, Scottie, right? Because you're basically saying that was in the past.
And he fixed it.
Recently, in an interview in the last year with our Jake Tapper, he was asked multiple times if he would disavow any support from David Duke, the leader of the KKK, and he didn't do so on the program. He later said, I disavow, but he failed to do so when asked multiple times by Jake Tapper. That does not sit well with many, many people.
Obviously, I wish it would have been immediate, but he did say, I don't know anything about this KKK. He did not
know who David Duke was.
Well, but he didn't know anything about this endorsement. He didn't know all the stories. And unfortunately, as we have seen this campaign season, the press has tried to trap him in different aspects. So I think he was being cautious.
How is that, Scottie? How is that trapping him?
Well, no, at the time, he didn't know the whole entire situation. He was just being told for the first time that somebody was endorsing him. He didn't know if it was true or not. He didn't know he didn't know that David Duke had endorsed him.
That's not the case. He was asked, do you disavow support from Klan leader David Duke?
And he did multiple times after. His word was, I don't know anything about such an endorsement. Unlike Hillary Clinton, who still has the endorsement of the California Grand Dragon KKK leader today and has been out there making promotional videos on his own accord, but still putting out there. Hillary Clinton has yet to disavow him. So there's ties on both sides, but that doesn't make that the candidate themselves.
What are you saying, Scottie? What are you saying there? What are you saying there?
I'm saying that Hillary Clinton has actually stronger ties, that has not disavowed a KKK endorsement, where Mr. Trump numerous times has disavowed any connection,
Bakari?
has publicly over and over and over.
Bakari, your response.
Scottie and any other surrogate and Donald Trump himself are going to have an extremely hard time with this argument. I think they're actually going down the wrong path, that somehow Hillary Clinton is the bigot in this situation or has some racist past or racist history, because that's simply not the case. But let me actually tell you how we can get from Donald Trump from point A to point B. Many people talk about Hillary Clinton and her usage of the term super predator in 1994 during the crime bill. It's something that I chastised her about. It's something that I held her accountable for. Many people held her accountable for, because that language didn't have any place then. It doesn't have any place now. And even when you look at the context of what she said, it was wrong. Hillary Clinton actually owned that. She said, it didn't have a place in my vernacular then. I shouldn't have used it, and I apologize. Donald Trump, for example, cannot even formulate the words, I apologize, to the 5 young men in New York that he set off a lynch mob after. He has never said I'm sorry to those individuals. He's never said I'm sorry to the people that he discriminated against and kept from getting houses. He's never said I'm sorry to the millions of people who are still upset, including me, for him trying to delegitimize the first African-American president of the United States. And so, yeah, I know that he wants African-American support. And at the end of the day, it may go from 2% to 5 or 6% at the end of the day. But that is not enough to actually change the conversation. And if he wants to change the conversation, Donald Trump can simply start by saying, I apologize.
Poppy, can I make one correction?
Very quickly,
the birther movement was actually started in 2004 against Senator Barack Obama's opponent then in Illinois. It was later carried on by one of the advisors to the Hillary Clinton campaign, who said there might be an issue here. So it actually started back then.
That's actually not true.
Scottie, that is not factually correct. Hillary Clinton never questioned the birthplace of Barack Obama when she was running against him. Guys, I have to leave it there. Scottie, Nell, Hughes, Bakari Sellers, thank you very much. Coming up next, she's been called